Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome. Welcome to Facebook Live. It is, can you believe it? 2021 is almost halfway done, or even more than halfway done. And it is September 1st, 2021. We are welcoming you. Most of our panel is not here, but the one person that is here is Cesar. And Cesar, did you want to introduce yourself today? Instead of me giving an introduction, since there are not that many people, I try to quickly go through the introductions, but we have time.
Sure. So I've been channeling. I've done probably close to 1,000 readings in the past few years, accurately. I'm not a fortune teller. I just more so provide spiritual guidance. I read source energy. I spend a lot of my day mentoring and being a motivator to people I cross paths with, whether it's on Facebook or in person. And the goal here is to be excited and raise our vibrational frequency. And that always leads us to the next most exciting moment. And that is our goal here in presence power as we practice.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction. So it's the first question that I'm going to ask is something that was asked towards the end of our last Facebook Live Q&A panel discussion. And the question that was asked is, what is the difference between, I think he used the word awareness and consciousness. So did you want to respond to that? And I'll give some input about it. Thank you.
Sure. I believe consciousness is something that we are. Awareness is something that we do. To be conscious doesn't necessarily mean that, as Toli says, not speaking in medical terms, simply that we are in control of our thinking. To be unconscious means that we are on autopilot and that our thinking controls us. Awareness is something that we actively do, meaning we are aware of anything. We are aware of the present moment. We are aware of the contents within it. So using it in a sentence or an example would be, if I am aware of the present moment and all that is, I would then become conscious. I guess that's the best way to put it.
So to me, the words awareness, presence, alignment with inner beingness. I think Eckhart has used the word alignment with inner beingness. And I think even Abraham Hicks uses the same terminology. She says, are you aligned with your inner being, right? She says, are you aligned with your inner being? Consciousness. So all these are pointers, they're words to an experience. They're not like, okay, I can say the word and know what it is. And that's why Eckhart's pointer is always be still, or he points to the Bible phrase, be still and know that I am God. Right. So that is a pointer to when we are still, then we are in that awareness, or we become self-aware, or we become conscious of being conscious is another term that he uses. Or then we are aligned, what Abraham Hicks calls it, it almost is like you're a radio receiver and you are calibrating to source. And as you get calibrated, then you're aligned with your inner being. And the calibration is not the same. Like I may be, if you take radio frequencies, I may be 101.1, but Cesar may be 107.9, it can be a different calibration. So each human has to calibrate to their frequency so that not everybody needs to be on 101.1 to be calibrated to source. And that's how she explains it. The moment we are calibrated, there is an experience, and in that experience, that is what is called a mystical experience. Right? We see, we may see colors, various colors. So this brings another question, Cesar. How do you experience? To me, I see images like different geometry. They call it fractal patterns, right? Along with the color, in the color is the inner content of a fractal pattern. Like it could be a diamond shape, right? But there's blue and there's the design, there's like, I can't even remember what it is, but it's like a beautiful experience of those patterns during that heightened state of complete alignment. But the moment the thought appears, then some of the alignment, like Eckhart in his recent talk talks about, then we become the background, right? The background is there, and in the foreground we are doing work, like I'm responding to email, it's in the background. So that's how I experience it, Cesar. So can you explain what you feel is when you're completely aligned with source, in that stillness, in those moments of stillness, what is your experience? Thank you.
Yeah, almost as we were like explaining sacred geometry in a sense. Just the patterns of like a snowflake has many different shapes, and these all have to do with frequencies, as you know, it's energy. So what we vibrate at, my experience becomes very light, like Eckhart says, almost like I'm not even there. So as an example, during a channeling session, I do totally disappear. I feel, but I'm still aware of the being. And it is as if the message is coming through me. So there's no thought on my part when relaying the message. And it's almost like telepathy in a sense, to distinguish the message that is being given to me to deliver. So it is very almost ghost-like in disappearing and feeling that lightness. As far as the vibration goes, it's almost unexplainable. It's just such a radiant joy and loving, almost like overwhelming bliss where tears like literally start to fall. The colors become more vibrant in this state. The air becomes lighter. I become lighter. I just kind of, looking back, I would say I would see myself as the empty space when I reach such a frequency. Yeah, and it is very blissful. Hi, Michelle.
Thank you. So we were talking about, hey, Michelle, and I'll introduce you real quick. Michelle is one of our core group of meditators. She has a depth of spiritual practice, been with Eckhart's teachings for a few decades. So she's here with us. So how do you feel your experience of awareness? Somebody asked this question towards the end of the last Facebook Live, Michelle. What is the difference between awareness and consciousness? And they're just different words, but we were talking about how we experience that alignment when we are completely still. Can you remember how you experience stillness?
Yeah, a sense of awe, I think, would be just complete peace. The moments that I've experienced it, I think, have been when with nature, you know, just observing nature and the beauty. Like I remember certain just moments where nothing's, I mean, that's when it's mostly happened, but I can remember other times when I've been with my, my son when he was born, like just this complete peace and awe. And random moments, like I remember just walking up a set of stairs. It's just this overwhelming sense of peace, and everything else falls away. And it could last 5 minutes, but it could be 2 seconds, and then it goes back, and then you're just back. But when you open that doorway, and lately, I think my practice has been deeper and more consistent. So just felt a general sense of peace, and trying to not attach to outcomes, just kind of like living every day in that state, and that's when when we talk about conscious manifestation, I mean, I just want to be there. That's where I want to be. And that's all. Like, regardless of outer circumstances, I just want to be in that state of bliss, because nobody can take that away from you, So, and I think I've come into a fuller understanding of that in recent weeks, what it would be like just to live in that space, beautiful. And I think when you go back into the world and you realize the world doesn't offer you that, because, everything comes and goes. So when you can anchor yourself in that, you feel like you're rooted, and, you don't want to leave that space. So that's the way I've experienced it.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
And what I noticed is I've started watching some of Dr. Joe Dispenza's testimonials, like on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And a lot of healing happens when we are in that state. Like that's what he drives his, when he has his advanced workshops, that's what he drives his attendees to do, is get to that mystical experience stage. And in that, people have healed like tumors in their back, like huge knots in their back, instantaneous remissions. So that is the power that experience has.
And I think there comes like a trusting as you experiment with that more, and you're in that space, there's a trust. Like sometimes, because of the conditioned mind, we go back and forth and we waver in the ego, but as you practice more, there's a trust. You just know that you're going to be fine regardless,
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So Cesar, since you talked about channeling, one of the topics, and this is something that Summer wanted us to discuss. I think we discussed this in the last Facebook Live Q&A. We were talking about how we go through it. So it almost was, April kept asking, why do we come here? Or why are we born here, right? What is the reason? Why don't we just stay with source? So I promised Summer, and Summer, our beautiful, brilliant co-creator, I said I would role play it. So I'm going to role play with you, right? Cesar, and then Michelle, you can join in. Okay, so let's say I was, let's say I have patterns that I know. Let's say I have envy, I have resentment, I have, what do you call it? Maybe verbal abuse, experience verbal abuse and physical abuse, right? So I have resentment towards the verbal abuse and physical abuse. And I lived my life, and maybe at 80 years, 90 years, whatever time frame, I'm passing away. The spirit is leaving the body, right? So what they say is, and this is something that everyone And we had this discussion a few months back when Kelly and April were here on the panel. When the spirit is leaving the body, and we go through a final life review. And it's not a life review that we are reviewing our life from the beginning till 80 years old. Let's say 80 is the day that I pass away. Till 80 years old, it's not that we are experiencing a life as us. We are actually experiencing the life as how the others experienced us. So when I was holding resentment, like say I was holding resentment against my mother, I will see my mother's feelings for me at that point in time, right? And what Sadhguru explains it as, it is a very, very painful, it can be very painful depending on how you've lived your life, right? If you have, I mean, if I had been like a really violent person, then my life review is going to be violent, right? I'm going to experience all the pain and suffering I inflicted upon every human being, every creature, ever since I was born till 80 years old. So that's understood, right? And during that life review, my soul is going to say, okay, I learned this lesson, I learned this lesson, I learned how to get hold of, to get rid of envy, but I still didn't get rid of my resentment. I got rid of I have forgiveness for the verbal abuse, but I still have resentment for the physical abuse, right? And I'm just giving an example. If I still, at that point of my spirit exiting my body, so this expansion, right? The moment the contrast is given, as Abraham Hicks says, the moment we were offered the contrast of the physical abuse, and we didn't make the choice to have forgiveness and expand, we are stuck in that lesson. So as my soul is exiting, it's making the decision. And it's not, I feel, Cesar, it's not like a mental to mental decision. It's like we are energy, and it's psychic to psychic, right? Psychically, we know what is the next lesson that we need to get ready for as we are exiting the body. That in that final review, we are making preparation for what is, and this is what April, I feel I was not able to answer April, and I promised Summer in through Facebook Messenger that I would provide that example. So my soul will choose to have a lesson in physical abuse again, and I will take birth. Either I take a birth, or in the other realm, I'm going to figure out a way to resolve it, right? Because consciousness is always expanding. So the non-physical energy that I am needs to expand, needs to learn that lesson. And we have many lessons. It's not just one little lesson, right? What do you say, Cesar? How do you feel about this? And I'm going to put myself on mute.
Okay, briefly. Now, when you say physical abuse, is it physical abuse that she endured?
Physical abuse that I would have, that would have been inflicted on me.
Okay.
Like, you know, their patterns, right? Like this pattern of,
Gotcha.
what are the unconscious patterns of humanity, which is the lessons that we are learning right now, right?
Sure.
The unconscious patterns are envy, greed, exploitation,
Yeah, okay. I got you.
Right? Thank you.
So, I mean, as the soul is exiting, and this is, let's say, the situation where the other lessons are learned and this one is still lingering, many people would say that we would choose to come back because that would be one of the lessons that hasn't been learned on a specific timeline. Therefore, we get another opportunity to do it, because life is in form, the world of the manifestation, this world of form, is the playing field in which we learn these lessons. So at that point, obviously many you would choose to come back for that lesson, because this time is simply in the blink of an eye, that we leave source and then return to source. 80 years in human life seems like, well, if you're living exuberantly, this time cannot be enough. But if you are not living exuberantly, and this torment is that of which you take on, and the physical abuse, it's never ending. So the roles might be reversed on the next realm. She may be the abuser. We don't know. If that's what it takes to learn the lesson, that's a possibility. I guess every avenue is a possibility as far as what life will offer in learning them lessons, because I don't think particularly that we script the lessons prior to coming, because that's part of the excitement. We just know we're coming to learn this. We come to expand and grow spiritually, and that would be a spiritual growth. Having learned the lesson of physical abuse, I think ultimately the answer would be acceptance and surrender, which are one of the main things we can always learn, and perhaps only. But yeah, so the soul would almost instantaneously make that decision to do a 360 and return to the world of form in having learned yet another lesson. And chances are many of the people that were in your past lifetimes will return in the next. Maybe not as that particular body and form as you knew them, but they say many of the people from your past return on the following timelines and previous ones as well. Animals included, I hear. So, yeah, some say that it could be scripted exactly to how this lesson is going to be provided. I don't know, but I know that we do come to learn, and those types of situations are great examples of lessons in which we choose to come here to learn. Some feel like, why would anybody really want to have to experience that to learn something? And again, in the world of form, it could be a drug out life as far as, physical time. But, having been away from source, it's literally a blink of an eye. So to take on any challenge on this timeline in the world of form is relatively just a split second in comparison. So no lesson is too great or too painful to experience, knowing that before we come here. And perhaps that's why some of the choices are made to experience such difficulties and hardships. It is only here in the world of form that we make it into the big deal and then stretch the timeline by becoming attached to the situation, many times as the victim, or being rooted in suffering. It sounds silly, but when an event like that happens, and I know a couple people personally who've experienced abuse at a young age, and they have carried it, when I say stretched that suffering, they have literally carried it from, early teenage years into their 50s and 60s now, as if it happened yesterday. And I can only imagine that when one thinks of them types of abuses, that they literally relive the same exact emotions and pain without actually experiencing it. A past event that they just cling to. And that is all part of the learning lessons, because when you exit the body and return to pure consciousness as the extension of source energy, looking back on the life that you had just lived for 80 years, you would see that you probably spent many of your years in that suffering. And let me try this again. That wasn't too fun, because we don't come here to get kicked around and bounce off walls and endure all this suffering and then attach to it and have it become us. We come to experience it learn the lessons in which we chose to learn, and move on and grow from it. And that enables us to have the exuberant, blissful life. And it is through them hardships that we learn the greatest lessons, I believe. And so that would be my answer.
So don't put yourself on mute because you will be able to
Okay.
answer this question. Remember, Abraham Hicks says there's a contrast offered in the challenge. And then because of the contrast, we shoot a rocket of desire.
Instantly.
Right? So
Yes.
ask and it'll be given. So in the verbal abuse or the physical abuse, what do we desire? A person that is less violent around us, right?
Yes.
And ask and it is given. So we are moving the moment we shoot the desire to have a person. So you want to speak to that?
Yeah, we are always moving in the direction of love and peace and joy, and things that are feel good to us. Even when we experience the contrast is seemingly only a second long when it actually happens. Okay, 10 minutes long, maybe it goes on for 5 years, but at some point, typically the first point, the desire is born and it is answered and given immediately through source. It is then up to you to be able to accept it, surrender to it, and get out of the way. And that allows the loving person to enter. That allows you to become the loving person. Great example. Love like attracts like. Everybody. The art of allowing. It is up to you to become that frequency in order for you to manifest it. And many people, I'm going to say most of the people that have experienced any type of abuse, hold on to that, and then it's no wonder that they keep attracting abusive relationships over and over and over again. And it is part of the victim mentality, or the constant putting the focus or the attention on the guy or the person that was abusive to them. And so that is going to keep showing up repeatedly in one's life. And then the soul leaving the body again is that profound moment where it's the aha moment. Okay, look what I've done. But until we learn these things in this lifetime, how not many people are really accustomed or have any knowledge of the law of attraction. It amazes me, but I would say 30%, 40% of the people are kind of familiar with the law of attraction. It's not something that is passed around every day unless you're seeking that, unless you stumbled across somebody that told you about it over and over, and then you began to wonder. And it is like sessions just like this that many people have the opportunity to learn because they are seeking. Why? Because they're in alignment with it. And this is what's on the table. So yeah, alignment has everything to do with what keeps showing up and where your frequency, what are you focusing your attention on? Yeah, the contrast is important as the manifestation itself, because the contrast is necessary in order for the opposition to show up, which is what you desire. Because of the contrast, you know what you don't like through the experience to know that what you do like, and that carries on and on and on and on and on. Every time you experience some type of negative contrast, it allows you to know what you don't want, to know what you do want. And that's a beautiful thing. So you really have to embrace the contrast as much as you do the actual other end of it, because without that contrast, the desire is not born.
Be grateful for it.
Absolutely.
Ultimately, we are grateful for our past.
Absolutely.
Right? So,
yep. Even
thank
the
you.
contrast, as soon as it's done, it's over. It happens in sometimes a split second, and you have the ability to let it go as quick as it came.
Thank you.
And then be thankful, indeed.
Thank you, Cesar. So Michelle, do you remember this discussion? I think we even went into soul contracts and you wanted your soul contract read, but our experiences of the present moment will show us, and this is what Kelly was saying last week, that if we review, so, Gracie and I took a course with Dr. Eben Alexander last year. Um, Karen Newell is his partner, and Karen is the person, the meditations that I play during group meditation. She's the co-founder of that company, Sacred Acoustics. So Karen and Dr. Eben Alexander is who I heard about Sacred Acoustics from on Super Soul Sunday with Oprah Winfrey. And Super Soul Sunday is how I know Lakshmi. I met Lakshmi on the Facebook group for Super Soul Sunday.
Okay.
So we've been following Super Soul Sunday for a decade, I think, Lakshmi and I. And I think in year 2012, Dr. Eben Alexander was on Super Soul Sunday, and he talks about sacred acoustics. And then last year we took a course with him, and he explained this, that we go through a life review. And so what Karen Noel so one portion of the talk, with School of Awakening, Eckhart does a talk, and Kim-Ing does a second talk separate from him. Here they took half, like he did half if it's a 2-hour talk, he did 1 hour and she did 1 hour. So he talked about this life review. And then when her turn came up, she said, do your life review as you're living. Don't wait for your spirit to pass away. And that answers your question about your soul contract, because as you're doing your life review, you're going to realize what were the lessons that we learned. Just like I'm telling you, right? Like this envy. I used to envy my brother like crazy. Like if he got a little, in India, we get those piggy banks. I'm sure here too, as children, parents teach you with the piggy bank, right? And if he got one, I needed one. Like if he got a green one, I needed one that was orange or red in color. Like exactly the same thing should be bought for me. If not, I would be like really, like I would say you did something for him and you didn't do anything for me, kind of like be upset about it, right? As a child, as a 5-year-old child, as a 6-year-old child. So I know now from awareness, I can examine that pattern, right? That jealousy was always there. And it translates into competition when we get older, right? We're competing. I need to be in first in class. I need to be first in my university. The jealousy turns into competition. Competition is another word. We could almost call it jealousy with a halo, right? That is what competition. I mean, society kind of like, what do you call it? Kind of extols competition, but that's not needed. So tell us, celebrates competition, right? And that's not needed. So tell us, what did you learn from this discussion? Did you have an epiphany? Do you have some feedback, Michelle?
I mean, I know I've mentioned this before, but I think my son has been my biggest teacher because of all the challenges I've experienced of having to let go of society's conditioning of what we should value. I mean, there's so much here, especially in the States, that is so exterior to oneself. So your education, your accomplishments, your trophies, your medals, what school did you go to? What did you graduate in? What do you do? What do you have, right? And he was so unattached. He didn't like birthday celebrations. He didn't like crowds. He didn't like having a friend. He just, so as these things would come up, I'd have to make a decision. Well, if I'm going, he's going to have a meltdown. You know what I mean? So you start to kind of like, okay, where am I going to find value? So then, I was looking and I found Wayne Dyer, and there was a story that he said on his PBS special. It was the Shia story. I don't know if you've heard of it before. It's beautiful. It's about a young boy who has special needs, and he wants to play softball with a group of boys that he's seeing on the baseball field. And the dad was hesitant because they knew that he couldn't keep up with the rest of the boys. And the dad, because he wants to please his son, goes up to one of the boys, maybe the pitcher, can he play on this team? And just give him a chance. And everybody's looking at each other and say, sure, we'll put him in. And so I think it was like the 8th inning or the 9th inning of the thing. It was tied game, and they put him in and they put him to bat, and everybody made an effort not to catch the ball so he could run to first base. And the guy who caught the ball overthrew the ball to the first baseman so he could run to second. And then the outfielder didn't try to catch it. So he made a home run and he won the winning hit for that team. And they all raised him up and celebrated him. So it wasn't, the father was having a moment like, what is the gift that my son brings to this world? And that's what I learned, is the compassion that it brings out in others. That is the gift. It doesn't have to do with accolades or being the first one or being the best. And I've seen that repeated so many times when I've been out with him, that must have been my soul contract, unconditional love. And so, yes, so I do think that as awareness builds in you, you can work on that soul contract so that when your soul and your dime comes, that's not the lesson. You've learned that lesson. You know what I mean? You've learned that lesson, but you have to, this is something that you can't do. Once you're on that path, you can go back, but there's a calling, because I don't want to suffer anymore. I don't want to be in that victim mentality that I'm the mother of who are you, right? We have our roles. Yes, I'm the mother of an adult son with a disability, right? I want to learn from it, right? And I want to help others through it. So I was called to help, you know what I mean? So that was part of my healing journey, is helping other families that are going through the same path. And I did that for 10 years. And then comes another chapter in your life. So I think that, everybody's born to have different experiences, and maybe we learn the lesson in one lifetime, and maybe we have to come back 3 lifetimes to learn the lesson, but I definitely want to get this one down. So I love this space because, it anchors you all the time. And once you start to kind of deviate, no, I need to come back. I need to come back, because this is the space where you feel good. And as Wayne Dyer says, you want to feel good, you feel God, you want to feel good, and it no longer is validated through the outside world, so you get anchored in who you are at the deepest level. So that's been my experience. And even through my husband, I'm second generation immigrant. So, fleeing persecution from different countries. And I was born and raised here, but the stories of my husband, the stories of my parents, my grandparents, so that also influences me, because the hardships of those countries, we take so much of our freedoms and our liberties here for granted. And so that grounds me too, and to take nothing for granted and be grateful for the simplest things, for hot water running on my tap. Because I'm sure you, Poonam, also coming from India, I know you've mentioned that, right? And my husband, he comes from from Cuba. So, and that's where, and so they don't have running water. The electricity goes off at a certain time, right? And they flew those autocratic, governments to find freedom, and we all want freedom, but what freedom do we want, right? So this offers you freedom politically, but where's the interior freedom? Because you can get trapped into buying into the cultural conditioning, right? And buying into the dream, which could be end up being really the nightmare, right? So you got to be really careful, right? Because that freedom is inside. It's inside, and we create it for ourselves, you know,
Beautiful.
loosening the grip of all the other roles and attachments. So
Thank you for sharing
yeah,
your personal experience, Michelle. That's incredible.
yeah. I love to share. Love to hear people's stories, you know, because you always learn from other people, you know.
It is true. Like, you know, at work, people constantly, and for the past 2-3 weeks, there've been so many hurricanes, right? Hurricane to me is like a normal, okay, so if a hurricane hits, you have candles, you can light a candle, you can go to the bathroom with a candle, you'll have water, you can fill your bathtub, have water, and you can just stay. Like, it's being back home without electricity is normal. Not having running water is normal for me. So I never, like, anytime, and I lived in Baton Rouge, you know, right, Michelle?
Yes,
I
yes,
graduated
I
from
do.
LSU. So I lived like 4 years in Baton Rouge. So being without electricity was not out of the norm for me. Like reading and writing, and I was a student then, reading and writing from candlelight is not out of norm. Like, I've done it with that kerosene lamp, like done writing, because electricity goes off. Melba is experiencing it right now. She's not able to watch the live because there's a brownout in the Philippines. And people take electricity for granted here in the US, right? Running
So
water.
much. Everything.
So this contrast that Cesar is talking about, and I think I've said this in the Facebook Live Q&A, when I was a kid, we would take a bucket of water and like pour it over us to take a bath, right?
Yep.
And I would always think of, why can't I stand under a shower? Like, the water just rained on me like rain, right? So I'm grateful for the shower, like a clean bathroom, and being able to like turn on a faucet and it just rain on me, right? I'm so grateful for that. So that's the contrast that, and I kind of now know that the fact that I have a clean bathroom and a shower is a manifestation from childhood. It's the contrast, and that was the rocket of desire from that contrast, right? The contrast of doing, oh, I have to go collect water. One, I have to physically be able to go collect water and put it in a container and then use it for washing clothes and to take my bath or use it for different reasons. Brought that, and this is beautiful example. Thank you, Cesar, for that. That was the rocket of desire, that I have running water. And now I experience the benefit of that, that I do have running water. I have.
I just wanted to add, and even here you are years later, having experienced that, and you mentioned how grateful you are to have this running water, because of how it used to be. Them little things that we can find gratitude in, which is, I promise, just about everything. When you keep gratitude at the forefront of your life, just keep the word on your mind. It is a signpost, like Eckhart says. And you can find gratitude in the little things on a daily basis. Make it your practice. It is the quickest way to raise your vibrations. And it is an amazingly peaceful, excited way to live. It's just, I can't even explain it, but find gratitude in the little things, and it's just amazing.
And it changes that vibration, right? Because once you shift into that, things they lighten up, right? It's just, you just shift. And some people, right, like with Eckhart, right? So they don't want to let go of the ego, even if it's identified with victimhood. That's who I am, right? How can I let that go? Because they don't know who they are, right? So they'd rather be tied to that and almost live in suffering than opening a window to gratitude and letting some fresh air, right? But they're afraid of letting that identity go. And that offers you the freedom. So it's almost like, can I call it masochistic? I mean, without them knowing it, because it's unconscious behavior, right? You don't know better. So, that's why this work is that's why I love Eckhart, because he deconstructed everything so beautifully to be able to give us the opportunity to say, hey, this is how that ego functions, right? And this is how the pain body functions. And how do you want to live? And then it's up to you whether you want to do the work and really look at it. Beautiful.
So since you brought up different countries, right, Michelle? Cesar, yeah. What I would say is then our rocket of desire, when we experience like what's happening in Afghanistan, what's happening in Syria, what's happening in the Middle East, right? Then the rocket of desire, we just need to be that many millions that are wanting peace and compassion, right? That's the evocation of, so what we are experiencing is a collective unconsciousness, or what the collective pain body, a reflection of the collective pain body on the planet. That's what we are experiencing. And our rocket of desire has to be, and I love that the fact that the group is growing towards that compassion, towards that empathy, towards that, you want to speak about that, Cesar? That if we have collective unconsciousness, the countries being unconscious.
Yeah, how it plays a part in our daily lives. It is that the mass frequency which covers this planet. When Poonam talks about the collective conscious, it is the I would say the average frequency of what is going on in people's minds and thinkings in the world of manifestations. Yeah. And to experience all the trauma and the craziness that is going on this planet brings about a different desire. Eckhart spoke 20 years ago on how this planet needed to make a conscious shift, and he was playing it rather desperately at the time, saying it needed to happen and it needed to happen soon. I think we are experiencing that on a planetary level as far as the collective conscious goes, because of all of the trauma and suffering going on in this world today. There's rockets of desires being sent daily, millions of times, in third world countries that don't know what it's like to have running water and flick a switch and you have light, or I want to say the benefit of a TV, but it's been years since I actually focused on a TV because of the garbage, and that is what influences a lot of what the collective conscious turns out, really, based on what's happening around everybody. But I see it as the planetary frequency, the vibration at which the whole of the collective vibrates. And I believe it's constantly flowing towards love and peace, just as in your daily life, and your inner being is always leading you in that direction, with the aid of the universe supporting you in all that you do. The inner being, your soul, always knows and tries to get you to take the path of least resistance. And again, everything is always just leaning to, when you're on this journey, it is a journey that gravitates you towards love and compassion and empathy, and watching others around you. You are the light that is being given to the people around you on this journey, and without even having to say anything to them or deliver a message, I see many of the people around myself that I see on a daily basis, just kind of making a little shift daily or weekly, I should say. And I see them now helping animals, and without me ever having to say anything to them or telling them what I do. I see people being more compassionate, more giving, more understanding, more loving. And it is just the circle that seems to show up in my life on a daily basis. And I'm not saying I don't have people that are experiencing trauma or do bad things, that get such a influx of every walk of life through my journey. It's amazing, the people that gravitate towards me. But I know that everybody shows up for one reason or another. There are no coincidences, and but it is what you do that helps shift the collective conscious by radiating your light and your love in all that you do. You are the example. Your actions are your message. Your actions are your painting. This life is your canvas. So what you do during this lifetime is your message. It is your legacy, in helping others. It is such a great feeling, a humbling, gratifying, blissful. I get overwhelmed with it, where I turn a corner and I just cry, out of joy, complete joy and gratitude, bliss. Sometimes I think, oh God, I hope that person. But it's the little things that make up that type of energy. And again, it is a practice. Empathy is something that we all obtain. We all have it. Compassion. These are our natural abilities. Hate is a learned behavior. I don't think we're born in such a frequency. But to do the little things in life, and having that empathy and compassion towards others, and all beings, all radiant beings, even nature itself, a flower, it's, you step on a flower and you turn around and try to prop it up and make sure it's okay. But it's a beautiful way to live, and it is a practice. But again, there's no better feeling than knowing you helped somebody smile and lessen their suffering. And I believe that is part of our purpose on this lifetime, is to help lessen the suffering of those around us, those we come in contact with. It's not always about you. But for us that have been through such difficult, hard times, we don't need, if you didn't give back in that way, having learned what we've learned on our journey. And Michelle, I absolutely loved your story. That was amazing. And to find that reason and that purpose as you explained it, got that tear out of me. That was beautiful. And the light and the love that you spread on this earth, and being that beautiful example because of your son is just breathtaking, and it's amazing. And the world needs more people like you. But like I said, again, that feeling of helping others, there's no better feeling you can experience, I promise you. Eckhart says, when empathy meets compassion, it is one of the most noble feelings that a human could ever experience. It is true, I'm here to tell you. And it's
sure.
just the little things. Yep.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Cesar. Yeah, I think Abraham Hicks says, right, we are born uplifters. So we are not living, Eckhart may say our inner purpose is to know of our presence, but after we know of our presence, the inner purpose is actually to be of service to others. If we are not of service to others, then we are not living our purpose. So it doesn't mean that everybody go live on a mountain, right? I discovered my inner purpose. I discovered alignment with inner beingness. Now I'm going to go live on a mountain. That is not the inner purpose, right? The inner purpose is, and that's the whole philosophy of karma yoga, is through our action we so selflessly give. It is such a sacrifice in that one action that we renounce the fruit of the action. We are just giving, and there is no attachment. There is no intention that what is the other person going to give to me. We are selflessly giving. In that, we make the universe elevated and sublime, is the lesson that Eckhart is teaching, right? Like, it's not just do that, but then do your action, because we are participating in this universe. We are engaging with society. We are engaging with, I am working in a work environment, right? I work for corporate America. So there is an action that I'm performing, but can I imbue it with loving kindness, with compassion, with presence, selflessly give and uplift another, even in that work environment, right? Like
Yeah, the
Cesar,
answer, I just want to cut you off right there. The answer is yes, you do it daily.
thank you.
Poonam, I do a yoga class, and I've had the same instructor. He's out of California, but for like 20 years. And I always remember a phrase we'd play the tape on DVD because I liked him so much. It says, it's not what you do, but how you do what you do, right? So we can always give of ourselves in our own, even if we, like Art would say, if you're sweeping floors, how do you smile to the person that's coming by? How do you speak to the cashier? I mean, it's just, it's how you're imbuing each action with what kind of feeling. Are you doing it with resentment, with judgment, or are you doing it to extend a hand, right? Give a smile, help someone, open the door for someone, right? It's in the small acts of the everyday. So
Thank you. So Cesar, Candy says, my 13-year-old son has the victim mentality. How can I help him in this area? Actually, Michelle, you want to get started since you haven't spoken for a while? You want to answer Candy's question? Then I'll go to Cesar about this question. You see the question in the chat?
Yes, I see it. I see it. My
Great.
son has the victim mentality. How can I help him in this area?
Thank you.
I would say, Candy, I mean, I know that, 13 years old is not an easy age, right? He's a teenager with all hormones, and it's kind of like, it's all about me, right? That adolescence. But, I mean, I don't know if he's in school. I don't know the details surrounding the issues, but I know that if he could get involved in some type of, if he has an interest in getting him involved in some type of service, volunteering, opportunities with people that are maybe less fortunate than himself. And in that experience, maybe you don't have to say anything, because a lot of times coming from mom, they don't want to hear it. But if they can get involved in something in school and where they can feel of service, they can maybe get a sense that, listen, I've got it pretty good, you know what I mean? And then help someone. And in always helping someone, you always feel better. It kind of shifts the energy, and you're able to get out of that victim mentality, so I don't know if that's something that is available to her, but maybe through the church, I don't know if she's involved with the church, or, some schools have best buddies where they're pairing up, typical developing children with special needs children, or, if you go volunteering in a homeless shelter, I mean, there's opportunities everywhere for kids to get involved, I think more now than ever, and try to provide that alternate perspective so he can learn it for himself. I think at the end of the day, when we're parenting, we want to tell them, but sometimes they need to experience the contrast, right? They need to experience the contrast without knowing too much of what her situation is, if it's some trauma, then you may need to get some counseling or, therapy going, but there's not a lot of detail in that question, but that would be my 2 cents.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I feel she could also offer him, like if she's following Eckhart's teachings, find some motivational speakers, more contemporary, not like spiritual sense, like Tony Robbins, and there's Jay Shetty. There are different kinds of motivational, and every week, one of the chores every week is do some video, watch a video, and then discuss it, sit him down and discuss it. It's going to overwrite his programming, right? So the victim mentality is picked up. I'm positive there's something in the vibrational energy of the home that somebody has the victim identity, because how did the kid pick it up? Either home or school, somebody has that, the collective consciousness, he's absorbed it. And we cannot do anything. Once they've absorbed, once they've turned into a pain body or have a victim identity, we cannot undo it. They have to go through the surrender from our side, that they have to go through their own journey now. But let me help out. One, I'll take care of my vibrational energy. I will increase my alignment with inner beingness. Two, I'll offer him little tidbits, right? Do different kinds of, like everybody's story here. Louise Danaway, who is another panel member, Michelle, we've gone through that whole journey of doing Louise L. Hay, Wayne Dyer, Dr. Deepak Chopra. I've listened to Byron Katie. I've listened to Eckhart. I mean, Eckhart finally is where I settled. Krishnamurti. I mean, we've listened to so many spiritual teachers, right? And then we made a journey here to Eckhart. So let them make that journey. Hey, there's this motivational video. There's this. Sometimes there are some exciting, what appeals to teenagers, like with a lot of video content and a lot of banners and text in it. Maybe, and then sit down and discuss with, what did you learn from this motivational video? What is your life lesson? So every day, and give them motivational books, right? Personal development books, and see if that helps, that they go read the books. Videos are the easiest, because I think the younger generation loves, like, they just want to watch some media, right? Like video content. They don't want to sit and read a book. So it depends on the kid. What do you say, Cesar? Thank you, Michelle, for your input.
Yeah, that was beautiful advice. I mean, on both ends there. As a parent, I would be rather excited that he's experiencing this at such a young age and not in his 40s, because by the time he hits 30s and 40s, maybe he'll have it figured out by then, by experiencing and going through it now, as most people experience some type of that victim mentality. In fact, I would venture to say that the vast majority of the population on this earth at some point experiences just that. But on the other side, where the lesson is to be learned, is a beautiful thing, and it is something as a parent to be excited about. And I loved where Poonam was taking this, as far as making available to him, or pointing him in the direction of things that relate to such a thing, as motivational speakers and stuff like that, inspirationals, and there's many great teachers out there. I thought that was brilliant and absolute perfect advice, as far as making that be one of the chores. And when I was that age and experiencing much of the same, my father actually took me to the Hermanos Cancer Institute for Children and walked me through the doors, and I got to experience children my age that were battling cancer, and most had very short times to live, and that was a very awakening moment for me. And I don't think I've ever had the victim mentality since then and thought I had it bad, because that's something that kind of stayed with me, and that I don't have it bad as long as I've got a breath in my body and a voice, and I'm able to feel this love that I am and radiate to others and get that in return. Then I'm excited every moment of the day for that and grateful for it. But yeah, Gaia has some good things to offer. It's a cheap subscription, and many of the speakers and teachers that Poonam just mentioned are on there. Yeah, I think that's great advice as far as finding the videos, and he'll gravitate to one of them eventually, and this will wind up to be a blessing, I believe, in a very short time, as long as you can deliver the avenue on which he might be able to take, as far as the videos, or a speaker or somebody that and I've seen through my own children, and then having done similar things like this, I didn't want to push them into getting into the spirituality of things, but I wanted them, I needed them, I felt, to understand what this was all about, because at the end of the day, this is the ego at work, and I think there's nobody better than Totally that explains the ego and how it creates that victim mentality for us, and then we become just that. And to have a chance to understand that, and perhaps Eckhart Tolle is the one that you might want to turn to. Perhaps maybe read a chapter a week with him, and then spend an hour at the end of each week. There's book clubs basically online, on Facebook, book clubs that they read a chapter a week, and at the end of the week, they discuss the chapter with each other. Perhaps you can take that initiative and say, let's talk about what we read this week, and that would be a benefit to both of you. I think that strengthens the bond, the love, and there's no better way I can put this than you will both benefit from that experience and going down that power of now, or the new worth journey, because I think Eckhart Tolle touches on this as good as anybody. I love his way with words, very simplistic, and to understand, to even just grasp a little bit of what the ego is at such a young age. What a blessing it is. My children started at about 15, 16, and I'm very grateful for that. And I wish I would have known what I know now when they were born at the age of 1. It would have been all different, but everything is exactly how it's supposed to be today at this moment. And that goes for you too. So look at this as more of an opportunity, and be exciting about it, because when this shift does come, the contrast out of this is going to be just beautiful, and profound, because it is such one of the most amazing lessons that perhaps the son will ever learn, going down this road now. And you have given him the opportunity, and like I said, perhaps maybe even spending that 20 minutes or 15 minutes at the end of the week to discuss whatever it is he chooses to get into, or that you can point him to, that he grasps to, and have that bond and that association. And I feel very strongly that in the coming months that will all come together for you. So what a blessing, how exciting it is to have that happen now instead of at the age of 40 or 50.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Cesar. So since we were talking about law of attraction, wouldn't it be, if she's saying my son has a victim identity, so that intention and that emotion where you feel kind of a depression, right? How are you going to feel when you think the thought, my son who has a victim identity? You're going to have depression. So that's what you're going to draw towards you, as well as, so one of the things And I write this in my book because I found this as like such a clear epiphany where what Eckhart calls selective perception, our perceptions become narrow focus, right? We narrow down into my son who has a victim identity. And then what do we see? Just the victim identity, victim identity, victim. We don't see the times when he was compassionate. We don't see the times when he was not a victim and he did something that was heroic, right? So in his talk, the greatest talk on Socrates, the greatest teacher, he says, Eckhart Tolle says that not only is the other person in the prison of our judgment, right? My son who has a victim identity, they are in a prison and we are in a prison. We are trapped in that prison of that judgment. My son with the victim identity. So what I would say is, Candy, in your meditation, see your son with infinite potential, because that's what each human being is, right? See the saintliness in who he is. Yeah, he is a victim, but are there certain aspects of him where he is surrendered? Because you are a follower of Eckhart, so you're surrendered, right? You've taught him somehow. He's picked up surrender from you. Where are the little things that he surrenders about, right? That's a heroic aspect in him, right? That's that requires valor, that requires courage to surrender to it. So what I would say is see the good qualities in him and focus on the good qualities that he has. So by law of attraction, then he's going to shift. You're no longer, you don't have him trapped in that judgment that says, my son with the victim identity, and surrender, like say, okay, that's that soul was born to you. He experienced for 13 years some certain life out of which he's become a victim. Now let that soul take its journey. But look at the incredible part that his mother is an Eckhart Tolle follower. And look what you're going to bring to him. As you increase your presence power, you're going to bring that presence power to him, and he's going to realize his infinite potential. So trust that connection to source. Trust, work on your alignment with inner beingness, and trust that presence power. And of course, we gave some practical, Michelle gave some practical tips. Cesar gave a practical tip, go take him to a, and right now with the pandemic, I don't know how much you can roam around a hospital.
Yeah,
and,
that's true.
and
There
walk
might
around.
be something on Zoom or something. Who knows? There might be new opportunities, you know, via Zoom or creative ways. But
Right.
piggybacking on what you were saying, Poonam, yeah, like when we I know there's an author who's very aligned with Eckhart Tolle's work, and she always talks about him, is Sabari Shavali, who does conscious parenting. So she's got a book on conscious parenting, very aligned with Tolle, and she always she always kind of says that a lot of what she's been able to do, I mean, not do, but she resonates a lot with him. So it's aligned. But, you know, also, as Poonam was saying, catch him being good. So when you see him doing that act of kindness, just say not a good job, but very specific to what you saw and what quality, so that he can build that those in himself, right? And trust that and believe that he has these beautiful qualities in himself. And that also brings in, right, your awareness, because now you're going to be hyper aware of what he's doing, so you can catch him being good and vocalize that. So you're building on the positive, and then try to ignore whatever negative behavior and focus on the positive, you know, hopefully, you know. And then with time, he's a teenager, you know, also all those hormones will start to settle.
And it almost is like, I'm sure you go through it and I've gone through it, but so my, I think it was like amazing, like decade back, that I already knew Eckhart, and I had already gone through chapter 4 of role playing, right? So I took away the condition, look at how cultural conditioning also plays, right? Don't be a cultural parent. Learn, remove your role as a mother. Disidentify from your role as a mother, so that you're not saying the things, you know how like I'd say what my mother used to say. If I didn't come first in class or second in class, and if I came like fifth in class, she would like, what happened to you? Why were you so dumb? What did you do? Right? Don't do stuff like that where you're, is it called disparaging remarks to your child? Don't don't do the cultural things that our parents or our grandparents did. Notice what are the cultural patterns. Don't call them a loser, or don't call them, if they don't follow the normal pattern, right? Of being first in class or second in class, and you're expecting, oh, they need to academically do good. If they're not doing academically good, then they're a loser. Don't call them a loser, right? They're just, each trust that he's a unique human being, and that soul will flower in its own way, and allow that spaciousness of presence for that soul to flower, right? So disidentify from that role. If they behave badly, like let's say they throw things around, and with the 13-year-old, like Michelle was saying, they're hormonal, right? Let's say they have anger, they're acting out what they're learning from society, right? They have angry patterns, or they're throwing things around. Uh, they're verbally not respectful, right? Don't say you need to respect me. That's an identity with, that's our cultural pattern, right? That the child should, who are you? I'm the mother. What Eckhart says, right? I'm the bigger person. You're a little tiny person, and I'm going to force you to, I'm going to control you because you're a little person, and I'm going to rule over you, right? That's the cultural pattern that we've had for thousands of years. That's what parents do to children. No, don't force anything. If they're, surrender. Your mantra is surrender. If they throw things around, surrender. If they say something that's rude, they use profanity, surrender. They have anger, surrender. Hormonal, right? This too shall pass. By the time they're 17, 18, this too shall pass. They'll taper off. But a boy child, that's what Michelle is saying, right, Michelle? They are going to have those ups and downs in emotional field.
Yeah, I mean, you know, my granddaughters are gonna be 12, and navigating it, it's normal, whether they're girls or boys, they're gonna go through that stage. We all went through that stage, we just don't remember, and at least Candy, have the tools, you have a toolbox that is available to you that we didn't necessarily have when we were parenting, our teenagers. So, which is positive, but it's hard to step out of that role of mother, right? You're supposed to respect me, all that cultural conditioning for sure, So that's why I say sometimes it's hard for us as a parent to be the ones to kind of show them the way. They kind of like, I know it all. And so to give them the experience, I think that was beautiful, Cesar, that your dad brought you to the hospital and was able to do that. And you could see it for yourself. You didn't have to say anything, right? You just, you witness it. You're the witness, you witness it, and that is a huge lesson. Maybe there would be opportunities for something like that. I don't know. That would be a wonderful thing to have something like I remember growing up in high school down here, we used to have something called peer, like there would be a lesson where you're in middle school, you could go peer-to-peer counseling, and you'd have like a period where we just deal with all those emotions that come up. And it was more of a you'd have someone facilitating it, one of the teachers or something, but a lot of it was peer driven. So I don't know if there's something like that online. I mean, she could do a search and maybe like, there might be something available, so.
And if they're being disrespectful, that's what the soul, and this is your soul contract with that soul, the soul that is the child is showing you where you are identified, and they're stripping you of that identity of a mother or father by the fact that they're being disrespectful. They're saying, no, you're not my mother. I want to be free. And that's infinite expansion, right? The soul wants to be free. So I wanted to read the comment from Ken real quick. Ken says, thank you all for your presence, demonstrating your awareness, delivering your message of a higher level of consciousness. It is amazing how the dots are being connected. I really needed to hear your message tonight. Beautiful, right? Let me... So Candy says, should we teach them the right values when they're rude? Cesar, you want to take that? Thank you.
Teach them the right values when they are rude. Always teach them the right values. You can never go wrong working in the energy or with the energy of source, which is that loving, compassionate, blissful, beautiful energy. Always, always, always teach them the right thing. And I just wanted to say briefly, in response to what Poonam was just explaining about the 13-year-old, in a nutshell, it is the energy that is being manipulated to create this momentum, to offer back from the law of attraction better things. So I just wanted to say that was great, Poonam. I loved it. As far as this one, yeah. Even if it's rude, or if the child is rude, is that what they're saying?
Shouldn't we teach them the right values when they're rude? When they're rude, that's not the right time to be teaching anyone anything.
Oh, right. Okay, I gotcha. Well, sometimes the seed doesn't necessarily sprout when you plant it. So definitely deliver the message anyways. And don't let, you have to be the example. So when somebody is being rude, know that it doesn't need to affect your energy. And that is a great lesson in itself. That somebody being rude to you doesn't affect you. It doesn't give them the satisfaction of whatever response they're looking for within you, because you just simply say it is what it is. Low vibrational frequencies cannot really affect high vibrational frequencies. They either bounce off or go around or go through, but they don't necessarily affect them in that way. So be that example and always try to teach the right thing. When they're rude, and even though they might not be paying attention or giving you their focus, plant the seed anyways, deliver the message, and get on to the next moment.
I will tell you from my own experience, because I've dealt with a lot of challenging behaviors with my own son. And it took me a long time, but I finally saw that that was an opportunity to practice my own presence in those moments where they are triggering you. And I would anchor, it was not easy, but you anchor in that, like really deeply. And sometimes in those moments, less is more. And you just stay in presence and be the witness of whatever's happening. I do believe that there's a time and a place to discuss that. And when they're in that state of reactivity, I found planting the seed always is better when the situation has passed, like so that they'll be more receptive. when they're calmer, you know? So it's really, I think, a practice for whatever parent is going through that. Is it really taught me to stay present in those moments. Not an easy thing, not easy, but it's a gift from mom.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michelle. And that's what, when they're rude, think of, remove the human element, remove the relationship, Candy, remove that son and your mother, and look at soul to soul. Planetary intelligence through that soul is pushing your button, what Michelle is saying, pushing your button to show you where there is no anchoring alignment with inner beingness. And that's why they're rude. Like what Eckhart says, right? If we were anchored in presence, we would let it pass through us. We would be transparent. They're rude. The child is rude. We would let that rudeness pass through us, allow our ego to be diminished, because the cultural pattern, especially if you're in India, I mean, I'll tell you because I'm East Indian, I'm going to tell you the cultural pattern in India, and I'm sure it is in all across the planet. You cannot be disrespectful to your parents. We take from childhood, we are taught, my mom is like God, my father is like a God. My it says Matri Deva Bhava, Pitri Deva Bhava, Acharya Deva Bhava. My teacher is God, right? So just imagine now your mother is God. Are you disrespecting your God? If you disrespect your mother, you're disrespecting God. So that's trained in the cultural society. If he said even a word back to a mother, it was like, oh my God, it would be like World War III or World War IV at home, right? Do we want all that disturbance in our force field? We don't want that disturbance. It's like, allow, being an Eckhart follower, we allow our ego to be diminished, because that offers us that opportunity to look from the broader perspective. That soul is hurting, the child is hurting, and taking, where there's anger, there's pain, what Eckhart says, right? He's taking out the pain as rudeness and anger. So look at the pain in the child, and unconditional love. When they are rude, just say, I just love you. Let's say his name was John. John, I just love you. I unconditionally, you may say what you're saying, but I just love you. And I'm your mother, and I'm here to just love you. And that's all I'm here for, is to love you. That's it. Offer love one day, day 2, day 3, day 4. One day they'll get it. That my mother, all my mother has done throughout her life is offered unconditional love. And that's it. At least there was one human being in this world where there are so many disapprovals. My mother never disapproved of me. Let him have that experience, right? I think there are no more, I'm just checking on the site. There are no more questions. I think we can stop here. It's been an hour and a half. We can stop here. And I see that this time I was able to monitor the questions since Eileen is not here. We missed everyone, but we had a great discussion. I know Gracie is here. Christina is here. So hello, Gracie. Hello, Christina. Hello, Louise is here as well. So thank you, Louise. Like she is, oh my God, like everybody has such a lion heart. Gracie, Louise, Lakshmi, they're week to week. They're always here for us, Christina. And I think Christina requires Gustavo to translate whatever we are chitter-chattering about. So it's incredible. So it's such a humbling experience. I am eternally grateful. So thank you, Cesar. Thank you, Cesar, for making such an awesome discussion, as well as Michelle. This is what makes the universe elevated and sublime, right? We had a great discussion. So eternally grateful. Many blessings. Have a fantastic day, everyone. We'll meet again next week. Thank you.
All right. Thank
Bye.
you, Poonam.
Good night.
Bye. Good night, Caesar.
Good
Good
night.
night, Poonam. Thank you. Good night,
Much love.
everybody.
Much love. Bye.